Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I'm Teresa Prestwood, the president of the CWH board, and I just wanted to invite us to use tonight to take space and kind of feel in the Shabbat and give yourself space to reflect and meditate and be fed. I know there's some things that have happened this week that seem unsettling. And I just want to encourage you to take time here and let your cup be filled, because we're all here together. Thanks so much.
We're going to light Shabbat candles. Going to invite Teresa, if you would light our candles, and Gayanne, if you would lead us in the blessing.
And we bring the Shabbat light in. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlich ner shel Shabbat. Amen.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Good Shabbos. It's good to see all of you who are gathered here together on Zoom. And I want to give a warm welcome to everybody who is joining us on YouTube. If those of you on YouTube would take a moment and share with us where you're from so that when we go back and read the live comments, we can greet you. We love to know that people are joining us from all over Atlanta and Georgia, the United States, and sometimes around the world. So know that you're welcome here. As we pray together on Zoom, just want to remind us, it's always lovely when possible to see your faces so that we can sing and daven together, get that sense of community. And so when we're able to see one another, it accompanies and comforts very powerfully. I want to invite us to lean into this platform, to use the chat thoughtfully, appropriately, share your insights, wish each other blessings. We're not going to break out into breakout rooms this evening. And as we're going to go into Shabbat, to Shalom Aleichem soon, the chat would be a wonderful way here or on YouTube to wish each other a good Shabbos, a Shabbat Shalom, to offer any wishes, any check-in you want to do with one another. Please do so on the chat. You'll find Shalom Aleichem on page 13.
Start that over. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bochem leshalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni leshalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sechem leshalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
For those of you who can't see the chat, one of our youngest members who is joining us, Ori, was sharing his new tzedakah box that he got for turning 3.5. And it's a wonderful way to think about entering into Shabbat with the mitzvah of thinking and caring for others, which is really appropriate as we think about this week's Torah portion, which is Lech Lecha. We begin to learn about the story of our ancient foremother and forefather, Sarah and Abraham, and what they were known for was their care and concern. So it's perfect that it's this Shabbat, Ori, that you received your tzedakah box. And as I will speak, and likely Gayanne will speak as well, Lech Lecha has many different understandings. It traditionally means go forth, but the mystics teach us that it can also mean to go within yourself. And recognizing that we take many different kinds of paths and journeys, but understanding that in this time, arriving just before the election, on a full moon, right before Halloween, that there are ways where we can feel a bit of the anxiety, nervousness about such a powerful future, and the work that is going to be ahead regardless of who gets voted in, the possibility of not knowing for a few days, for a few weeks, and then not knowing about the peaceful transfer of power. There's a lot that hangs in the balance, and it can be unsettling. And Shabbat really is the time for us to take our jangled nerves, for our sense of perhaps anxiety or fear, and to kind of let us settle, to remember our strengths, to feel the foundation beneath our feet. For those of us who lost power, for those of us who lost cars or had property damage, there's a lot that this week brought us. It was a big storm. And if we are worried about a political storm that's on a horizon, we can understandably be settled. And so Gayanne and I really wanted to be thoughtful about using Kabbalat Shabbat as a way to settle down and settle in, and to do this journey to our small, still voice, to chant a little bit, to invite some ease, the calm, the peace of Shabbat to emerge on our journey.
Exactly. That's so beautiful. So there are going to be 3 chants that we're using for Kabbalat Shabbat Psalms. And what I invite you to do is to let yourself, all of these chants have some aspect of journey in them, whether it's stepping in, whether it's what we yearn and hope for as we wait for something to resolve, or as it is that we step into our journey and we wait for what it is that we'll find at the end of it. So I invite you just to do exactly what Rabbi Josh said, settle into your body and let these chants be a guide to you for wherever you are right now. But the words have a lot of import at this time. Even if you don't know the chant, I think that you will after a couple of times. Ki mechakim anachnu lach. I'm going to stop for just a second to say they will all be with translations in your chat, so you can use that for how you need to use it. Ki mechakim anachnu lach. 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 Let's take another moment in between the chants to settle a little bit more deeply. Broaden your breath. Feel your body relax a bit. Lo neida ma navod et yad boenu shama. Lo neida ma navod et yad boenu shama. Lo neda manavod et yad boenu shama. Lo neda etia ad boenu shama lo neda manavod etia ad boenu shama lo neda manavod Etiad 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 boenu shama. May every step remind us that our life's a wonder. May every step remind us that our life's a wonder. Oh, heart of mine, let the light back in. Let it shine. Oh, heart of mine, let the light back in. Let it shine. May every step remind us that our life's a wonder. May every step remind us that our life's a wonder. Oh, heart of mine, let the light back in. Let it shine. Oh, heart of mine, let the light back in. Let it shine. May every step remind us that our life's a wonder. May every step remind us that our life's a wonder. Oh, heart of mine, let the light back in. Let it shine. Oh, heart of mine, let the light back in. Let it shine. May every step remind us that our life's a wonder. May every step remind us that our life's a wonder.
We move into L'Chadodi. And I was speaking to someone today, and they were wondering if part of their journey was about having tougher skin. They thought that for them, that navigating their life probably required for them to be less sensitive and to toughen up. And I said, I want to invite you to potentially think about a different metaphor than tough skin. We often think about getting tough skin so that we don't let the harm or the judgment of others penetrate. And so it's almost a metaphor for armoring up. And I invited this person to think about instead, what would it be like to deeply feel rooted within your own experience so that others' judgments did not sway you one way or another, but that you could be fully present and hear and take in everything that people said, knowing that it didn't necessarily need to reflect on you because you knew who you were. Wouldn't that be a terrific way to love yourself? So even as I say these words again, I feel that they are aspirational, that it is a journey to kind of shed the toughness of our skin and instead put our energy into the roots that can ground us and help us find that alignment. But I believe that the love of Lachadodi, that kind of this unconditional love that we can let in, that this Shabbat presence of abundant is about a knowing a godly part of ourselves that can be open and caring and doesn't need to take on anything else than what is for us to take on. So I invite you to join me in singing this Lachadodi. I'm going to invite us to sing what I often feel is either the waltz lullaby version, to kind of more tenderly welcome the Shabbat in with so much that we've experienced this week. Lecha Dodi likrat kala P'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala P'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad Hishmi'anu el hamyuchad Adonai echad ushmo echad L'shemo tiferet v'lit hila Lecha Dodi likrat kala P'nei Shabbat nekabela Lecha Dodi likrat kala P'nei Shabbat nekabela. Yamin u'smol tihi frotzi v'et Adonai taritzi al yaharish ben partzi v'nismecha v'nagila Lecha Dodi likrat kala P'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala P'nei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala Gam besimcha uvetzola toch emunei am segula. Boi chala Lecha Dodi likrat kala P'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala P'nei Shabbat nekabela. We continue with the Chatzi Kaddish. So for those who are standing, please continue. Those who would like to rise in spirit, please join with me. You find it on page 55. Yikadah v'yitkadash shemei Rabba V'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei B'cha chayechon v'yomechon Uv'chayedecho Beit Yisrael Ba'agala Uv'izman kariv V'meru amen Yehi shmei Rabbo mevorach Leolam leomei almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh V'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shmir kudesha, brichu. Liela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma, v'meru, amen. We continue with the Baruch Hu. Again, those who are standing, continue to stand, either join me in rising in spirit. We find the Baruch Hu on page 57. Ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Please be seated. Want to invite an alternative to our Asher Bivaro this evening, Mary Oliver's The Summer Day, and would like to invite Carrie Houseman to offer that reading.
Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?
Ma'avir yom u'mevi laila, u'mavdil ben yom u've'laila, Adonai tzavaot shemo, El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv ha'raviv. Shir Yaakov has taken the words, the interpretation of Rabbi Rami Shapiro. You'll find it on page 61. And he has placed it to music and invite you to join me for the Ahavat Olam. We are loved, loved, loved by an unending love. We are loved, loved, loved by an unending love. We are embraced by arms that find us, even when we are hidden from ourselves. We are touched by fingers that soothe us, even when we are too proud for soothing. We are counseled by voices that guide us, even when we are too embittered to hear. We are loved, loved, loved by an unending love, an unending love. We are loved, loved, loved by an unending love, an unending love. We are supported by hands are loved, 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 an unending love, by an unending love. We are loved, 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 by an unending love, an unending love. Embraced, touched, soothed, and counseled. Ours are the arms, the fingers, and the voices. Ours are the hands, the eyes, the smiles. We are loved by an unending love. We are loved, loved, loved by an unending love, an unending love. We are loved, 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 an unending love, an unending love. We are loved, loved, loved by an unending love, an unending love.
When the great Baal Shem Tov saw misfortune threatening the Jews, it was his custom to go into a certain part of the forest to meditate. There he would light a fire, say a special prayer, and then the miracle would be accomplished and the misfortune would be averted. Later, when his student, the celebrated Maggid of Mezrich, had occasion for the same reason to intercede with heaven, he would go to the same place in the forest and say, Master of the universe, listen, I do not know how to light the fire, but I am still able to recite the prayer. And again, the miracle would be accomplished. Then it fell to the next generation, Rabbi Israel of Rizin, to overcome misfortune. Sitting in his armchair, his head in his hands, he spoke to God, saying, I am unable to light the fire, and I do not know the prayer. I cannot even find the place in the forest. All I can do is to tell the story. And so please let this be sufficient. And it was sufficient. We each pray to the divine in our own special way, overcoming any physical and mental boundaries preventing our prayers from being answered. Our encounters with God are as individual as each one of us. This version of the story was written by Janice Elster. And I really want to invite us as we bring our multiple voices together to say the Shema, that wherever we are, whatever strength we bring, whatever value we put on the altar of our prayers is enough. And as we pray for misfortune to be averted, let us know that we will find strength with one another in navigating whatever comes. Please join me in saying the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. V'ahavta heit Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'leftecha v'derech u'shavpecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam le'ochot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'eineinecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha. We find the Micha Mocha on page 79.
Micha chamocha ve'elim Adonai, mi chamocha neda b'kodesh, norati lo totzefele. Ozi ve'zimratya vayahi lishua. Ozi ve'zimratya vayahi lishua. Ozi ve'zimratya vayahi lishua. Ozi ve'zimratya vayahi lishua. Baruch atah Adonai God Yisrael.
So, friends, before we say our evening prayer, wanted to invite us to connect in between this prayer that speaks of seeking freedom to the prayer that invites a sense of rest and protection. A prayer for voting. Many rabbis have been writing reflections on the importance of voting, and I have found this prayer by Rabbi David Seidenberg important inspiration that I wanted to share with all of you. Tom Downs is going to read it this evening.
Behold, I am intending through my vote to seek peace for this country, as it is written. Seek the peace of the city where I cause you to roam, and pray for her to Adonai, for in her peace you all will have peace. May it be your will, Adonai, that votes be counted faithfully, and may you count my vote as if I had fulfilled this verse with all my power. May you give a listening heart to whomever we elect, and may it be good in your eyes to raise for us a good government that will bring healing, justice, and peace to all living in this land and to all the world and upon Jerusalem. A government that will honor the image of God in all humanity and in creation, for rulership is yours. Just as I have participated in the election, so may I merit to do good works and to repair the world through all my efforts, and through the act of compassion, which I pledge to do on behalf of all living creatures, in remembrance of the covenant of Noah's waters, to protect and to not destroy the earth and her plenitude. Give to all the peoples of this country the strength and the will to pursue righteousness and to seek peace as a unified force to uproot racism and violence, and to make healing, good life, and peace flourish here and throughout the world, and fulfill for us the verse, may the pleasure of Adonai our God be upon us, and establish the work of our hands for us. Make the work of our hands endure. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. I want to invite us to take in and to maybe join along in the Hashkivenu lullaby, and wanted to bring back this video that Bill Witherspoon created as a reminder that even when we are apart, that our homes are connected, and that we can really find a sense of shelter amongst this community with one another.
Ashkivenu
So before, Gayanne, you say some words, I just wanted to respond to something in the chat, is that virtually all of our music, somebody asked, could some of our prayers and music be found online? And if you go to our YouTube channel, you'll be able to find many of our prayers and videos that we've created. So please look for Congregation for Haverim on YouTube.
It was really beautiful to see that again. It brought me back to High Holy Days and all that we put into that together as a community. And there we are seeing a lot of our homes, and as we shelter in peace and shelter in place. And then sometimes we leave home. And that is what this Torah Parsha is. So as we prepare for the Amidah, which will be a time tonight for silent meditation or silent contemplation, I just wanted to bring a few words of Torah. The Parsha this week is Lech Lecha, as Rabbi told us. And this week I found great, great comfort. And the fact that for me, this meant a lot. I think we all look for where we find the things that support us when there's change about. And this happened to have been Rabbi Josh's Bar Mitzvah Parsha. And I thought that it was really quite beautiful that it was also the Parsha for this week when we were learning that Rabbi Josh's path was going to be changing and taking a different direction than just being the senior rabbi of Congregation Bet Haverim. And so I think that for all of us, leaving home means something different, and home means something different for each of us. So as Abram sets out on the journey in this week's Torah Parsha, that's what he's doing, though. He's leaving home. And his leaving home is profound because it is what sets the path and the journey for all kinds of things that happen that then create a foundation of covenant for the Jewish people. So I wanted to bring a few words from Rabbi Sheffield as a way of sort of centering ourselves in the silence or the contemplation. She speaks very much about how the journey in and of itself has so many different stages. And each of us are on a spiritual journey. And sometimes it's profound and sometimes it's simple. And it really is up to us to be touching in and reaching in to connect to the things that are happening in our lives for the bigger purpose that's available. And the challenge is really to continually, this is Rabbi Sheffigold's words, to continually cut through and release layers of distortion and defense that lay upon our heart so that we really can receive what it is we're to be receiving, to be able to ground ourselves in our own reality of what we step into. We are guided on our path. We are guided just one step at a time. We seek out teachers. We open to wisdom. We receive moments of initiation. We experience epiphanies. And then we spend all of our years trying to integrate all of these moments into what it is that our own spiritual journey is about. We step in with the leaving. And the leaving has a great deal to do with what it is that we're responding to in our leaving. We leave something behind. We leave a fixed identity, an identity with our small self, maybe even our social identity or an ego. And we start to reclaim parts of ourselves that might have gotten lost during the socialization process. And inevitably on every journey, there is disappointment. We discover the defeat that might have been of who we thought we were or what might happen. The difficulties in our lives send us to our own depths where we find the core of our passion, our vision, our mission, and our love. And there's a part of our journey that's about developing it more deeply. Those are the ones that maybe seem to not feel filled with profundity, but they're maybe a little bit more ordinary as we're developing. And then Abram has initiation, and that's harder sometimes for us to see in our own journeys. But these are the moments of epiphanies along spiritual journeys when we receive something that feels very much like an initiation, where we have a wider perspective and where we start to access the greater flow of blessing in our own life. And from there, we walk into expansion. We expand our sense of our reality. We know that we're connected even to the farthest star. Abraham has prophecy as part of his journey. All the hard work of the spiritual practice can bring us to a place of prophecy where the structures of time and space dissolve, and we get to see the whole of our journey in an expanded moment. And eventually, covenant. Abraham is called into covenant to be Abraham. He is given the mitzvah and the physical sign of the covenant through the circumcision, which in Rabbi Sheffa Gold's words, she talks about this as the releasing of the layers of that, the things that clutter our heart. So I invite you in this silence right now just to be present with where you are resonating for your own journey. Just let yourself drop into some silence or contemplation, and we'll just be present together. Shalom. 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 Shalom.
We take a moment to add to our silent meditations a prayer for healing, a prayer for refuah shlema, a healing of body, of spirits, and of mind. I invite you to put the names in the chat for those that you are praying for this healing. We include Richard Adler, Hillary Bauer, Loretta Bernstein, Bob Bloomfield, Murray Chass, Judy Cohen, Estelle Green, Sylvia Gross, Jerry Falcon, Larry Huntsberry, Matthew Kantrowitz, Mark Coppin, Michael Lappin, Elaine Levin, Bob Levy, Robin Levy, Ann Lewis, Paulette LeCourciere, Tommy Macon, Melissa Machja, Esther Myers, Sharon Miller, Sarah Newmark, Aylin Olson, Don Perling, Michael Perling, Ethan Post, Alan Rosen, Gary Rosenthal, Judy Roth, Harris Rotman, Cheryl Siegel, David Singer, Orrin Staple Wax, Elliot Stryker, Maria Talenti, Eve Turner, Dolly Wax, Shirley Weiss, Aline Tootie White, Phil Whiting, John Witherspoon, Beth Ann Budekant, Iris Bowles, Tom Reich, Deborah Krotenberg, Frank Noon, Patricia Noon Richardson, Jamie Robertson, Yankel Batsara, Alton Reynolds, Alyssa Robin, Norma Harris, Kate Hamill, Janine Grasso Smith, Kim McCalla, Julio Quintana, Ellie Emmerich, Nancy Smith, Andrea Finn, Risa Wildermuth, Susan Bauer, Enoch Bryant, Madison Owens, Rebecca Green, Sherry Cornett, Lois Birch, Margaret Moore, Eyal Schechter, Sybil Williams, and Esther Reckman.
Ana elna, ana elna, ana elna refana la, ana elna lefanalo.
So, friends, I have some words of Torah. And as I put in the chat, Mary Oliver would come back in. And so I entitle this Devar, Your One Precious Life. With this Torah portion, the spiritual ancestry of the Jewish people begins. While the Midrash, a collection of our Jewish legends, fill in Abraham's childhood, in the Torah, his relevance does not begin until this moment when he is 75. Furthermore, it does not begin until Avram heeds the calls of Lech Lecha to go forth. To see it this way is to possibly understand that our people's story begins with him leaving his family of origin, his homeland, his way of life to a destination that he does not yet know, but will be shown. That act alone takes great bitachon, a radical trust that does not need to see the whole picture, but can rely on one's discernment and connection to godly presence to find one's own way. And I think that it is very meaningful that that is how our people's story begins. Rabbi Mendel of Kotsk observes that faith can be stronger than vision. It is then no mystery that the Jewish mystical tradition often translates the words Lech Lecha not only as go forth, but go to yourself, or in other words, go within, to that authentic place inside you, to that still small voice, to the place of aligned connection. For isn't that truly where there is a place of faith? Isn't it that alignment that allows us to hear the call and to take a movement out of our places of comfort? Lech is the imperative form to go. And even though lecha means to you, it is a doubling of the same letters. It is a poetic nod to the importance of this journey, this doubling. It is specifically saying this is a journey of import. And perhaps all journeys can be journeys of import. Rabbi Kari Alitsky understands that paying attention to this call is necessary for each and every one of our own vitality. He understands lecha to mean for you. That means you take this journey for your own well-being. And he writes that Abraham is hearing that he must move on. And for us, he says, it is the only way that we can grow spiritually. If we remain static, we will stagnate. Even with its emphasis, the phrase is only written once, but the intention is that it should be repeated often, like a kavanah, a sacred mantra, so that we should not forget that this spiritual impetus, wherever our life's journey takes us. Whenever we forget, we are asked to remember that the journey forward is indeed for our own benefit, our own good. Lech Lecha as a spiritual mantra is a powerful suggestion for a practice. It reminds us that the existential questions underneath the surface of many of our lives is, what is our purpose? It is the question from which we, the Jewish people, emerge. What is our purpose? When I return to this idea that faith is stronger than vision, it is faith in the process of asking questions like, what is my purpose? Like, where do I find meaning in my life? Like, why am I here? That can lead us to the journeys that we need to take. Because when we begin to pay attention to the answers and we start the journey, even when the destination is as of yet unclear, the trust in the journey will arise. I was reminded of these questions last Shabbat when the B'nai Mitzvah family chose the well-known Mary Oliver poem, The Summer Day, to be read. which we included in tonight's service. This is arguably her most remembered poem because of the last few lines. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? In just 4 sentences, she sums up the questions knocking on the door that often push us so that we might hear the call, Lech Lecha, to go forth when the time is aligned. It is so important to lay these questions on the altar of our interior spiritual life, to keep us honest, to keep us humble, to keep us open, and to keep us flowing. There will always be 1,000 reasons to stay in comfort, and they will often drown out the one reason to follow Lech Lecha. If we do not, we find ourselves in a time when there is so much to overwhelm us that without a dedicated path to go within, it is hard to see how one might hear beyond the strains of uncertainty caused by the pandemic or the economy or the election, to name just a few. Jonathan Zecher wrote in an article for the site The Conversation, an article this summer that I found intriguing about what he calls a lost emotion that the 5th century monk John Cassian called acedia. Acedia is a combination of feeling bored, listless, afraid, and uncertain. And he was saying that this is a feeling that he believed that was emerging in the midst of the pandemic. He believed that this emotional wall grew out of a monastic life originally, that the lengths of our quarantining and limited options without the practice of connection to a rich inner life might bring upon us a particular kind of paralysis, the exact opposite of a Lech Lecha. With a constant barrage of challenging news, and according to Zecher, the combination of physical and emotional isolation can lead us to feeling continually stuck with no options and no energy to become unstuck, while becoming agitated by that very feeling. Perhaps akin to melancholy, it is distinct in that, in my understanding, it prompts an existential questioning of one's purpose and agency, but feeling like there is nothing to do about it. For anyone who recognizes some of these feelings, the power of connecting to community and to one's own spirit is a necessity. These can help remind us of the things that we can do, of the ways that we can move forward. As I mentioned earlier, there are many legends to Abraham's origins, some from the Jewish tradition, but the Islamic tradition too also is rich with stories, many similar to our own. One such story is the Sufi legend that I studied in rabbinical school, which my colleague, Rabbi Michael Bernstein, recently brought back to my attention. In our collective tradition, there was a prophecy that a child would be born and it would topple the idolatrous powers that were currently ruling Babylonia. Nimrod, who was the leader at the time, issued an edict that this child, who was Abraham, be found and thrown into a furnace on fire. While Abraham is saved from the fire, the Sufi legend tells that the fire that began was so huge, it started engulfing the world. All of the animals gathered around watching this fire, immobilized by its immensity. One small ant in every animal's paralysis began to respond. She went and she gathered as much water in her mandible that she could to spill onto the fire to try to extinguish it. The animals simply looked stunned. They asked what benefit could possibly come from her meager efforts. The ant responded, I want the world to know with whom I stand. For many of us, it might feel like the world is on fire. We can doubt that our single actions make a difference. And when we feel that way, it can have us feel like we are stuck. Or we can act frenetically, flailing, disconnected from our purpose. We can judge others, discouraging their action, justifying our own stuckness. Or we can go within and we can listen for the call to act in ways in which we want the world to know with whom, and more importantly, how we wish to stand. When I first tried meditating with any real earnestness, the only thing that came to mind was a world that was engulfed in flames. It was all that I could see. I kept thinking, how could I sit when the world was on fire? The answer finally emerged that without sitting still, I would never be able to know how to respond to the fire in a way that was true to who I am and to my sacred connection. Without taking the time to first lech lecha, to go within ourselves, we cannot effectively lech lecha, to go forth on our journeys. It is the best way that I know how to answer the question, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? And I believe this is the question that is worth all of us answering and finding our journey so that we can go forth. Shabbat Shalom. Would like to invite Marcy Alt to give some announcements this evening.
Shabbat Shalom and welcome. We are so glad to host so many friends from around Atlanta and, of course, all around our country for our virtual services. We're going to have a lot going on this week, and all of you are invited. Mindful Moments is at 8:45 a.m., so please join us. Finish your day with a 10-minute minyan at 7:45 p.m. Rabbi G is going to be leading Torah study on Mondays at noon. The CBH board, we've begun meeting on the second and fourth Tuesday of each month. It's at 5:30 p.m. and our next meeting will be Tuesday. I don't know the date. Sorry. It'll be this coming Tuesday, November. Mouth it to me, Teresa. November 9th, 5th. I don't know. It's the next one. Sorry. Next weekend services are Friday night at 6:45. Saturday morning services are at 10 a.m. I think by now they know I make them laugh. If you're able to participate in this year's Gold Rush, please do. It's our only fundraiser for the year. So just bring your gold to CBH. You should have an email that tells you the different times. And it'll have a calendar of the times it'll be available, and it'll be in your inboxes. You can always email us at goldrush@CBH Atlanta with any questions that you may have. We have a whole section of our website that's dedicated to COVID resources and response. This is where you can find all the links to all the public CBH Zoom gatherings, as well as links to practical and financial resources and spiritual and mental health resources. Go to the CBH website at congregationbethaverim.org, and you will see it in the main navigation across the top where it says COVID Central. As always, a full view of all of our offerings, just visit us on the calendar, on the CBH calendar on our website, because we're constantly posting different and new events and services. So please go to the website, check often. That's all I got for you guys. Sorry I didn't know the date. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Marcy. Margie or Steve, somebody asked in the chat, now that the scheduled times are done for Gold Rush, is there a way that somebody might still be able to bring something? If you could unmute yourself and answer, that would be wonderful. If not,
Now it is unmuted.
okay, great. Oh, sorry.
They can email at the goldrush@cbhatlanta.org. We're really finished with it. We are doing a few last minute folks who, because of power outages, and trees that made their neighborhoods impassable, we're trying to work with them. So just email me and we'll try to find a way to work things out.
So just want to say thank you to you and Steve and George and Aaron and all the volunteers who helped make this possible. You did tremendous work, and thank you for braving the storm and sitting without power these last couple of days. So thank you, Margie. Thank you, Steve and George, and everybody else who was involved.
We thank everybody who's participated. I think we have exceeded our goal and we're very pleased. We want to do the best we can for CBH, right, everybody? Woo.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
And just because I saw it in the chat, I wasn't sure that it was said there are Shabbat morning services at 10 a.m. So please join us again tomorrow morning. We are going to conclude our services. And to kind of amplify that message, one of the things that when I saw the midrash, the Sufi midrash that I shared with you, that it was the ant that responded. It reminded me of also that childhood song about the rubber tree and what ants can do. And know that we have a lot of different ways that we can bring our strength to bear. So I hope that we have a sense of a renewed sense of our power, that we don't let that get squandered in the midst of this. And so as an alternative to our Aleinu tonight, there's this invitation to rise, and to rise with a sense of humility, but also rise with a sense of purpose. And so I invite you to join us in singing the song as we call ourselves forth into this next time.
We rise, humbly hearted, rise. We won't be divided, rise. With spirit to guide us, rise. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. And we rise. All of the children rise. Elders with wisdom rise. Ancestors surround us, rise. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. And we rise up from the wreckage, rise with tears and with courage, rise, rise, fighting for life, rise.
Amen. Please join me in saying the prayer for the end of hiding, which you'll find in the chat. As LGBTQ Jews, we are aware of the loss of integrity we suffer due to pressures of the larger society. We often feel forced into a dishonest presentation of ourselves to ourselves and others. The LGBTQ individuals who feel they must pretend to be something that they are not. The Jews who feel they must be alienated from their tradition and community to win larger acceptance. Both are victims of a theft of identity and integrity committed by the sexual, gender identifying, or religious majority. Creator of the universe, we ask that our hiding draw to an end, that we no longer feel we have to pretend, to promise falsely, to renounce ourselves, and that our fullest creative expression as Jews and as lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, and queer people be among the blessings you bestow upon us. Amen. So in a moment, we'll move to Mourner's Kaddish. I just wanted to offer this reflection from Brene Brown, who, paraphrasing her, invites us not to trade our sense of authenticity for safety. And that when we do so, it is like toughening that skin. We end up not letting so many other things in. And I feel like the prayer for the end of hiding reminds us that authenticity is where we get our spiritual vitality. And in thinking about Mourner's Kaddish and recognizing that this week on October 27th, that we honored the anniversary of the Tree of Life shooting, that part of violent acts of terror like that want to have authenticity move into hiding and invite instead a sense of overprotection and safety. And I always know that it's a balance. But one of the things that I remember that was so beautiful about the people whom we honored who died is that proudly living Jewish lives and living their values was a way they expressed their authenticity. And so may we honor them, not just how they died, but really honor them for how they lived their lives and how we can be inspired by their authenticity. May it touch ours. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be a blessing. And may we add into the chat the names of those that we are remembering as we say Kaddish this evening. Yikadal v'yit kadash shemei rabbah, amen. B'alma divrach chirute v'yamlich malchute. B'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. B'agalav v'zman kariv v'yimru, amen. Yehesh me Rabba Mavorach le'alam omei almaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach v'pa'ar v'tromam v'yitnaseh. V'tadar v'taleh v'talal shmei dekutsha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush b'chata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehesh lama Rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru amen. May the one who created peace in the heights create peace for all of us, all of Israel, and the entire world. Amen. And we'll close with singing Oseh shalom.
Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, imru, amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, imru, amen. Hey, yai-da-da-da-da-da, yai-da-da-da-da, yai-da-da-da-da-da, yai-da-da-da-da-da, yai-da-da-da-da, Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, Ve'imro, imro, Amen. Shabbat Shalom.
Good Shabbos, everyone. Good Shabbat Shalom, Gabby.
She says Shabbat Shalom to you too.
Good Shabbos, everyone.
Good Shabbos.
Shabbat
Shabbat
Shalom.
Shalom.
Shabbos,
Shabbat
everyone.
Shalom, Sherry Parker.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
This holiday